You're not the main character of anyone else's story. And that second piece has been really relevant to me because I put a lot of pressure on myself in my earlier years, my earlier self, my earlier professional time to meet what I expected or perceived or imagined others' expectations to be. And frankly, I don't think as many people were probably paying as much attention to me and how I was performing. They were just worried about their own performance. And once I finally discovered that, and I can share how I figured that out, it's kind of a little aside, but once I discovered that, it helped me be my best self, right? Be able to bring my strengths and gifts. But it also helped me, it opened up my aperture to see that in others as well, and to notice what others do. And there's, I think, a risk sometimes in professions, say of the military or law enforcement, where there is a uniform, there is a look, there's great standards. For a good reason, we have these things. There is a risk of feeling like there has to be sameness in how we do things. There has standards, absolutely, but sameness in how we act, sameness in how we talk, sameness in how we do everything. And I really do believe now that recognizing who you are at your best, at yourself at your best, is so valuable.
Today's episode sponsor is Aditon, creators of Aditon Operations Kit, the military's go-to software for personnel and equipment accountability. AOK goes where you do, any network, anytime, any place. I got to know Aditon's co-founders, James and JJ, several years ago. They are former Army NCOs who have years of experience in the tech industry. They understand that most military jobs aren't performed behind a computer desk. Personnel and operations are distributed, but accountability of property is paramount to making mission. That's where Logi, AOK's equipment management software, comes into play. Formerly known as 92X, Logi is a next generation of equipment management for the military. Logi offers unrivaled features for military teams on the go. Ingest and digitize your primary and sub-hand receipts. Generate and share sub-hand receipts and DA forms with your team in just a few clicks. Capture photos, tags, and notes across your team to build context on the state of equipment. Get easy on-the-go access to critical property records. Logi is custom built for the modern military professional. It gives you your valuable time back so you can get back to the mission at hand at home or in the field. Whether you're doing monthly inventories or preparing for deployment, Logi is your pocket property book, giving you real-time visibility into equipment status and mission readiness. Logi is currently in use across the U.S. Army Special Forces, and it's expanding. For a limited time, listeners of the From the Green Notebook podcast can try out Logi for free. Visit aditonpbc.com/FTGN-Logi to get started. That's aditonpbc.com/FTGN-LOGE. I'd like to introduce you to our newest partner, Roger Bank, a modern digital military bank built by military members for military members. Whether you're stationed stateside or overseas, Roger is designed to meet the unique needs of our men and women in uniform. I recently opened an account myself, and the process was incredibly smooth. It took less than 10 minutes from start to finish. Now, here's why I'm excited to partner with Roger. They offer high-yield checking and savings accounts, zero account fees, early payday, and automatic savings with roundup match. Their military-ready direct deposit form is even auto-populated and signed by the CEO, saving you time and hassle. Plus, you get free global ATM access, real person customer support, and they even offer accounts for service members as young as 17. Funds are FDIC insured through Citizens Bank of Edmond, so you can bank with confidence and peace of mind. Visit roger.bank to learn more. That's ROGER.bank. How do I know what I think until I see what I say?
The Green Notebook, carried by military leaders around the world. Within those pages are sweat, tears, triumphs, and the hard-won lessons of life. Lessons worth sharing. Each week, the team dives into the notebooks of military leaders, business professionals, authors, athletes and coaches, and entertainers to share lessons and help you lead with the best version of yourself.
Welcome to another episode of From the Green Notebook. I'm your host, Joe Byerly, and this is a special LANDEURO Talks episode of the podcast where I'm highlighting some amazing conversations I had at AUSA's inaugural LANDEURO Leadership Forum this summer in Germany. I want to take a moment real quick to recognize the AUSA Center for Leadership, the organization behind this forum and so much more. Since 2021, the center has been carrying out an important mission to educate, inspire, and connect leaders across the total Army, from ROTC cadets to young professionals, from NCOs to mid-career officers, and even extending into the corporate world. And they do this through programs like the annual Leader Solarium, where battalion-level commanders and sergeants major provide feedback directly to our Army senior leaders, regional leadership forums in the Indo-Pacific and Europe like LANDEURO, and initiatives that support ROTC cadets and young professionals as they grow into the leaders of tomorrow. And what I love about their work is that it's not just about classrooms or theory. It's about real conversations, shared experiences, and professional growth rooted in trust, service, and purpose. And that's exactly what LANDEURO was all about. I was invited to speak there about my own reading journey and how books have shaped me as a leader. But the real highlight for me was connecting with other leaders and hearing their stories. And so in that same spirit, today's episode brings you 3 of those conversations. The first is with Lieutenant General retired Leslie Smith on the power of the village that raised him after he lost his father. Next up is Command Sergeant Major Phil Blaisdell, reflecting on decades of lessons about what it means to lead as a non-commissioned officer. And finally, Sarah Draper, a former Army officer and retired FBI special agent, who joined me for a fireside chat as part of the Generation Next Forum. And we talked about career-turning moments and what we learned from them. So now that I'm retired from the Army, I've had the privilege to work with the AUSA Center for Leadership firsthand. And I've been nothing but impressed by Scott Halstead and his entire team. So as you listen, I encourage you to check out their programming. You'll find it's an incredible resource for leaders at any stage of their journey. So with that, I'd like to now welcome to the show Lieutenant General retired Leslie Smith. Sir, welcome to the show.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. You know, I went on your podcast and you guys were pulling stuff like, I think you guys did a criminal background
Check on you?
Yeah, so I had to do the same for you.
Yeah, we have some good background folks. They give us the questions and everything.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird. I'm talking to you without your best friend,
That's
Sergeant Major
good.
Daly here.
It's all good. We can do separate things too.
Yeah. There's a couple of things I want to talk about.
Sure.
First is your role with AUSA right now.
Well, first off, thanks again. We're here in Wiesbaden, Germany, having a conversation about leadership and trust, and you came here to help us talk to our young professionals and our Center for Leadership Forum folks. So we appreciate you doing that.
Well, sir, on that, this is something I've been, this is the second event I've done with AUSA.
Yes.
And it's so cool. Like, we didn't have this when I was a junior officer. There was AUSA wasn't doing anything to develop us. There weren't writing workshops. Like yesterday, young junior officers and NCOs are learning about meditation, breathing exercises. We've got leadership panels in here. I'm talking about the importance of reading. Angela, who ran the program, did an amazing job.
Yeah, Generation Next Forum.
Yeah, the Generation Next. And then next door we have the Leadership Forum.
Right.
It's awesome.
So, I always believe that God makes room for your skill set. We just have to be open to seeing what it is. So as we talked about before, the reason why I came to work at the Association of United States Army is because of General Brown came to me about 9 months before I retired, says, "What do you think about doing?" I'm like, I don't know. And so he says, "Would you like to come be the Vice President for Leadership?" Actually, the Vice President for Education for the Association of United States Army. I'm like, okay, what does that entail? We're about to stand up this thing called the Center for Leadership, and I want you to have oversight of it. I was like, Scooby. The reason why it piqued my interest because I was offered a position to teach leadership at Georgia Southern at my undergrad alma mater, And I was like, great. I mean, I can actually talk about stuff not from a theoretical perspective, but stuff that I know and that young people want and need as they continue to grow. So that's how it kind of came together.
Okay.
So as the Vice President for Leadership and Education, I'm the content guy. You know, Jack Haley does a great background, this great backdrop and all the setup. The meetings team and the membership team do all the setup, and then we provide the content, the panels, and then if you think everything else, the Center for Leadership, family programs, government affairs, the book program, all those guys work for me. Actually, I work for them. We work together to make things happen, but I give them vision, direction, and guidance. So, you know, we could talk about that too as we get into this discussion, but that is how I came to AUSA. So.
Yeah, and I thought I'll be honest with you, I thought AUSA was the magazine.
Yes.
And the annual convention. I
Yes.
didn't realize there was all these other things.
I had no idea either.
I'm not saying it because I'm here talking to you, but I'm here.
Most people don't.
I'm here talking to you because I'm all in on this stuff too.
Well, thank you.
And it's been cool to be for you guys to invite me to be a part of
Yeah.
it. I want to go way back. 'Cause,
Okay.
you know,
Way back.
Way back.
Okay.
Because you spent 37 years
Yes.
in uniform.
Right.
But did you have growing up?
Yeah.
Did you have family members that were in the, how did
Yes.
you?
How did I see it?
Yeah.
So it's a great story. So my dad served in the Korean War. He died when I was 5 years old. But
Oh,
I
man.
saw my uncles and others who served because they were all drafted, right? So the different things that happen, you never know what they happen for. But that was one of the things that I wanted to fulfill myself, this sense of service. But I saw pictures of my uncles and others. Another uncle who I saw in uniform as a military policeman. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a uniform. It's great. But I didn't realize that it would be 37 years of service. My brother served in the Army, 5 years younger than me, and my sister's 5 years older, 4 years and 9 months older than me, served in the Marine Corps.
Oh man, so
Yeah.
was that Lily's doing?
It wasn't.
Who is that, by the way?
Lily is our mom.
Yeah.
She's the heroine of the story.
Okay.
So when I write the book, the name of the book is going to be called From Humble Beginnings.
Right.
Why the village matters more than ever before.
Ooh.
And so what people are searching for is their village. And that what we as leaders are responsible for is figuring out how we develop that village in the places that we go.
Right.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah,
When you take command of an organization, I'm going to take that and turn it into the village. And so Mom took, what was a very negative situation, or could have been a negative situation, but created the right village for us to be, within the church, within the school, within the community. I was a scout. I did stuff at the church, and all the things that would provide opportunities. But the village comes back from where you're from, especially for young men. We have to know who we are, and somebody's got to tell you until you can figure out yourself.
Yeah.
So even though we lost our dad young, I always knew I was a Smith. We used to go back to Mississippi. It's like, look, you're a Smith, right? You're part of the crew. I think I was a one-star general. One of my uncles named Curtis Smith that had business stuff before he passed. Look, you're a general. That doesn't mean I can't still take you out. I had another who was a three-star, who was a third-degree black belt. It's like Uncle Collins, and he probably could, but he was a 3rd-degree black belt, and he told me the same thing. You got to understand, you're achieving things, but there are certain expectations that are set for you.
So it makes me think, and I've talked about this on the podcast. And I did this in command. I talked about this in command too. Was one of my favorite authors is Seth Godin, and he says, and he has this phrase that I've stolen, but it's people like us do things like this.
Yeah.
And so he's like, from the time we're born to the time we die, we evaluate every decision we make, every action we take against an internal thing of, do people like us do things like this? Yes. So what I'm hearing is your family, your mom and your uncles instilled in you.
And aunts, yeah, those
and
two.
aunts,
Yeah.
A Smith.
Yes. These are the expectations.
People like us
Yes.
do things like this.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important for leaders. And that's what you've tried to do throughout your career.
Yeah, I think the village, that village creates us into who we are. It's up to us to take what we know and apply it to what we do every day, right? So this thing about service is not hard only if we make it hard, because the leader's responsible for setting the vision, direction, climate, and culture for the organization. Those are all positive or negative things if we choose to make it that way. But we have insight personally into making those things happen. So if I take a good job of providing a vision, this is where we are, this is where we're going. Not only in our units, but in our families or the companies that we run, right? This is the culture that I'm gonna set as a leader, right? And then I not only talk about it, I demonstrate it. Right. So we were just over, talking with General Brown about little groups of paratroopers, right? They understand, they understand the intent, right?
Right.
So even if, and always the case, you have a mission, but it never executes what you think. But if you can provide the vision, direction for leaders to understand what needs to happen, they can do it without having to come back and ask you.
Yeah.
And again, it applies to our families. This is what my expectations are for you.
How did, as you rose in the ranks, what did that look like in action?
Yeah.
At the various levels of command that you had?
Let's back up a little bit before that.
Okay.
I mean, so we laugh about this too. So the different opportunities that happen, but they happen for a reason, right? I already told you about losing my dad, but our mom sent us all to private elementary school, right? We were 5 years apart, 4.5, 4 something. So she, and it cost money. So how was she able to do that? Sometimes by working 2 jobs, but it served as a foundation. So by the time we went to high school, Frederick Douglass High School in Atlanta was a cat's meow at the same time. I graduated the same graduating class with Martin Luther King's youngest daughter.
Oh man, that's awesome.
And her older brother was 1 year in front of us. And so if you think about excellence, when excellence is expected and you're in that village, that culture that creates that. And so the other thing I always tell people is you gotta listen to people when they're talking about you. And then on the other side, us leaders are responsible for telling people about what opportunities. So my junior RTC instructor says, hey, Cadet Smith, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know, I want to be a business person. Have you ever thought about joining the Georgia Army National Guard? I'm like, I don't know. But why did he take the time to sit down and talk to me about that? I don't know, maybe he saw something I didn't. I mean, I hadn't peeked into who I was becoming, but then I went to Georgia Southern. Anything south of Macon back then, you thought it was the country, because it was.
Yeah.
So I get to Georgia Southern, 6,000 students, just starting up the ROTC program. They said, we're gonna got a deal you can't refuse. You're gonna join the Georgia National Guard. I'm gonna make you a lieutenant in 2 years. I'm like, okay. I had no idea what that meant. So I'm trying to be a cadet with the juniors and seniors as a freshman. You understand what the impact that is? So I got to mature quick. So I become a lieutenant in 2 years in the Georgia Guard. So it started to develop this thing about understanding what it meant to not only lead, but learn how to lead at a young age. So by the time I leave, then becoming a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity showed me how to deal with Robert's Rules of Order. I mean, 18 years old, how do you learn about Robert's Rules of Order? When you have a business meeting, you got to follow the process across the board. So by the time you get on active duty, you start to learn those things. And then, as you were talking to Sergeant Major Blaisdell, great non-commissioned officers, right? I was just smart enough to listen and understand what it means to lead. And at every level of leadership, you have to fight for information. The higher you go, the more you have to fight for it. At battalion command level is the last time you get to see and know everybody. Right? You see them, you feel them, you understand it, but you still got to fight for information because your company commander's going to be like, well, I got it. Like, yeah, you got it, but I want to feel the pulse. How do you feel the pulse?
Get out and about, talk to people,
like
listen.
This, right?
Okay, yeah,
right? But,
I got you.
We can't tell our people to go walk around and be putting their fingers on people like that.
Yeah.
But that's how you do it. You get out and talk, but it's not natural for people to do that. Right? But if they have a leader that shows them how to do it, and that's what we've had. We've been in 8 seconds, so we know what engaged leadership looks like.
Right.
We know what leading through physical training looks like. But if you show people as they grow, then they can replicate it themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So every level as you go up higher, it becomes more, not difficult, but more of an opportunity to excel. How about that?
Right.
Does that make sense?
So as you were climbing the ranks, did you ever have any failures that,
Oh yeah.
like big ones that
Many.
tie you?
Many. Yeah, I got medically dropped from Ranger School as a captain, going to the 82nd. That was very humbling.
Yes.
So the major was there, Ranger qualified as I'm a chemical guy by background. So he was like, well, maybe we'll just put an RAN on your tab. I'm like, oh, okay. He got out as a major, by the way. But it humbled me, right? So the question is not whether or not something's gonna happen to you, it's how you respond to the situation, right? It humbled me so much that it caused me to focus even more so. And God blesses you to put in different positions and jobs and opportunities is what you do with what those things are.
Right.
So I get to 82nd DeVarty, the same day I get assigned, that same week is when we got called up for Desert Shield, Desert Storm.
Man.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, so you're seeing, I remember like just yesterday, I see a heavy drop, guys with artillery pieces dropping out of the plane and everything else. And that night we get phone calls like, hey, report. I hadn't been assigned I was assigned to the unit, but they didn't have my recall stuff because I just got assigned. So, and 2 weeks later, we were in the desert.
Wow.
Right, so it's all the great opportunities to do things and learn and grow to see stuff. But it serves as the form of who you are and how you go from there.
Yeah. I just want to, for the record, I was in 4th grade.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Learning your multiplication. You already knew your multiplication.
Yeah. I was,
but you were taking separate classes in the 4th grade.
I probably sent you letters on construction.
You probably did. You probably did. That's good.
A question too, because like the things that you're talking about, like you were the IG. I think you were the first chemical officer to be IG.
First chemical officer to do a couple things.
Yeah. So what did you learn that you think would be helpful in that job?
In that job, yeah.
That would be helpful for a commander, first sergeant, sergeant major today.
Yeah. So the inspector general is responsible for inspections, assistance, and investigations for 1.2 million soldiers and civilians, or 1.3 million soldiers and civilians. But it's all about being able to see yourself and also leverage the tools that you have to make you successful, right? Again, I didn't know I was gonna be the inspector general. Nobody really wants to sign up to do it, because it's a hard job.
Yeah.
Really, really hard. But I will tell you, you remember in the 82nd how they had the Ready Brigade?
Right.
Okay. You know who did the inspections for those? The inspector generals.
Okay.
I didn't know that until I'm a young company commander, actually as a brigade guy, seeing them do the inspections. And so they set the conditions for it. You had the G1, G4, everybody that did their part. But I was like, who are these squared away NCOs? So me being the smart guy, because I learned from all my NCOs, I didn't wait till the time that you were get ready to get put in the unit logger location where they lock you down. I went to see them ahead of time. Show me what I need to do.
Right.
That was my first background with the IG. So when I became the IG, my goal was to take all the trends that we know about what things get leaders in trouble and provide it to the force. I didn't want to keep it a secret. Those who wanted to listen would listen. Those who didn't. Okay? Then also spend time with commanders, because as you go up the ranks, you got to know how to use all those systems and processes. Just like we talk about multi-domain operations now, how do you use all those systems? IG, EO, HR, all those things that can help you see your organization that's not organic to you, that can help you see what things that could be coming down the pipe.
Yeah. Is going back on that, I remember I got to interview Arthur Brooks right before I took command. And he said something to me, and I've talked about it a lot on the podcast, but it stuck with me. He said, he's like, as the commander or as the boss, whatever, you're the most objectified person in the organization. So as I was coming in, I had to constantly remind myself, like, they don't see Joe, they see the squadron commander.
That's right.
You
are the man.
Yeah, and
right.
and in my own behaviors, the decisions I made, the things I said, I always had to keep that in my mind. Like, Joe could rip somebody, make fun of somebody, and like we would laugh about it. But the squadron commander does it, and all of a sudden, like, I may have ruined somebody's day.
Career.
Did you find a lot of times in your investigations that somebody had forgotten that was?
Yeah, I think part of it has to do with, as leaders, we're responsible for correcting behavior or not allowing it to continue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like what you
allow. Yeah. It's a standard,
culture.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So if you see somebody who's, as a young lieutenant or captain or NCO, that's doing that with other people, and if we don't correct the behavior and we allow it to grow, so by the time they become a lieutenant colonel, and we don't correct the behavior, then they'll keep doing it.
Right.
Until they run into somebody, I mean, even before the inspector general, that says, hey, this is not what we do here. And then if you don't correct the behavior, you should not continue to grow. You should stop. I mean, there's been many times guys that are battalion commanders, made colonel, then go to the war college, did not command at the colonel level command because they failed to understand what the standard was and how to change their behavior to execute. There's only one boss at every level, right? Everybody's got a boss, right? But that person that's in charge, you got to understand what it is that you got to do associated from there. Then be adaptable. I mean, that's what we're talking about with the groups for the young professionals. How do we help train them up? How do we show them the examples is via not only what we say, but what we do.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and I think like some of that stuff, like I equate it to musical chairs.
Yeah.
Like you can keep doing something, but eventually the music's gonna stop.
That's right.
And that chair is gonna be missing.
That's right.
And then your turn in the game is over.
Yeah. And the other thing too, this thing of military service, of up and out, a lot of people find that stressful, but it's okay, right? There are, I think it's important for us to do a good job of self-evaluation.
Yeah.
And to have somebody else to help us see ourselves.
Right.
How open do we receive information? But if they don't learn it, I mean, again, as we listen, you can listen to some of the people we were talking to the other day, you could tell they're not being counseled.
Right.
But on the other hand, there were other groups that said, yeah, I get quarterly counseling. And people say, well, that's important because you want to help them reach the goals that they want to get to. That's what leaders' responsibility is.
Yeah, it was my favorite part of the job in command was that a lot of it was the one-on-one counseling.
Yes.
General Donahue says it all the time, but like feedback is a gift.
It is.
And so, the up and outs, the OERs, the counseling, even IG inspections, like all it is it's data.
Feedback.
It's data.
And it's how you receive it.
Yeah.
How open are you to receive information?
When I was younger, like it was all about my ego.
That's right.
So it was like, man, like if I got, if the OER didn't have this word in it, or IG came down and dinged me here, like I was like, my ego was hurt. And I think as I got older, I started to crave that stuff because I did want it.
You want good feedback.
Yeah.
But again, it's how you help develop those leaders to see and do. The other part too is that your presence, we kind of talked about this before, PRESENC only matters when you're present. So for example, everybody wants to be the boss, right? But how about you be a good person in the position you're in so you can develop your presence, how you carry yourself, how you interact with people. So when you're in the position, you can stay focused, just like we're talking now, even with all the other crazy stuff going on, because that conversation that you're having with Specialist Smith is the most important thing to Specialist Smith right now.
Right.
Right? And then as soon as you get done with Specialist Smith, Specialist Jones is somebody else you could be talking to, but this is the most important thing, especially if somebody's got a family member or they have a situation they need to talk to you about. That's the most important thing that we're doing at that time.
And there were times too. I mean, just as conversations, like rekindling a bunch of memories. But I remember I had to be very careful as a commander because there's so much stuff going on all the time. But if I only have like that maybe 1-2 minute interaction with somebody and they're having the worst day of their lives, and I'm like half listening to them, half worried about the computer, you know, like my phone's sitting right here buzzing, I could, you know, like I could have missed a vital opportunity to show up for that person. So I was like always try to be cognizant of that and not, you know, like, and sometimes I blew it. Yeah. You know, sometimes I was like.
Yeah. And I still do sometimes too, and especially, you know, with our families, it's important too about how, you know, this phone is a beast in itself, about how you stay focused on the tasks that you got at hand, and how do you stay laser focused on executing those missions that sometimes only you can do. And the other part is how do you empower your people, you know, to do that. But if you're doing a good job of setting vision, direction, climate, and culture, they know what things that they can do and then what things they really got to bring to you to work from there.
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up, like the vision, the climate, the culture, the direction, like those are only things the leader, the commander can do. Yeah. Nobody else can do it. Yeah. And so I remember we were telling the story yesterday with the young professionals. Like, I remember I was in XO. We were at the National Training Center. It's July. It's 115 degrees.
It was hot. Yeah.
We're full kit.
No.
We're like a circus. Like, we're setting up the tent, tearing down the tent, jumping all across the box. And I wanted to, as the XO, I wanted to show all my soldiers that I was right there with them, tearing the tent down, rolling it, all those things. You know what I wasn't doing? Yeah. My job is
as the XO.
As the XO. Yeah. And they would get off shift and go crash, but like, I could, and I failed in my job because I wasn't doing the one thing that only I could do.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's interesting too is I talk to leaders about terms of reference. You know, who has what primacy and who has what background. And then as a leader, that's part of our responsibility to say, hey, XO, guess what? When we're in the field, this is what you're responsible for, right? Some majors normally do a pretty good job of that. You know, S3, this is what you're responsible for. This is what the commander and the commander's responsible for everything, but this is what your primary responsibility. But let me back up a little bit. Let's talk about leaders showing up.
Okay.
And I had a lady find me yesterday. She lives here in Germany now, but she was describing to me, I don't know if you remember when we had the government shutdown, which caused for sequestration, or where people were furloughed for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was in charge of Fort Leonard Wood during that time frame. That was a rough time. But here's what she told me. She said, you came and talked to all the civilians. This is before it started. You came out there. You said, we're all in this together. I don't even remember this conversation. I made everybody get in a circle and link arms together.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember this conversation, but she did. She says, I knew right then that you were serious about what you said. And during the conversations, there were some of my peers, and again, everybody did things different. They didn't get on the stage. They had the chief of staff do it. They had the chief of personnel do it. But as you and I just talked about, the leader has to be in the toughest places and the toughest times so people can not only hear or read, but see their intent. See what things are important. They're like, okay, now just like this conference that we're having here. We're here in Europe to let Yusharaf know, the Army know, really the world know how important this mission is. And then the investment that we're making in the young professionals and the young people that know that they are important with the tasks that we got going on. Again, one thing to say, but physically being on the ground is a big deal. That's what makes the Army special.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times too, you know, going back to the XO story, it was easy for me to tear down the tent.
You were comfortable with it.
I was comfortable with it, yeah. And I think like maybe at a deeper level, I was trying to escape the thing that was really hard to do. Which was my job as the XO.
Were you a 3 before?
I was, and that was a great.
Yeah, you know why? Because 3 is easy.
Yes.
Because it's focused, what we grew up doing. The XO is all the other stuff.
It's everything,
Everything else you're like, oh my. But
Yeah.
until you become an XO, you don't realize all the stuff that the commander really is responsible for.
No, it was almost like as the XO, like grabs the plate, like making
Yeah.
sure all the plates were spinning.
Yeah.
And I would get these 3 plates spinning over here, but then like I was like looking and the person was eating their plate over here. And then I'd focus
right.
here, I'd turn around,
Yeah.
somebody's dropping the plate. Anyways.
But it was
yeah.
also great training for you
I learned so much.
to become a commander.
Yes.
Because you had a chance to see. Because again, everything operational is something that we grow up and we're comfortable with. But
Yeah.
life is not about that. It's
No.
about dealing with uncomfortable things and uncomfortable times because it's going to prepare you for what you got to do.
So was there a job anywhere in your career
Yeah.
where you were like, why did I get this job?
All
and
of
then
them.
it paid
Yes.
off down the road.
How much time do we have?
We got a few more minutes.
Okay, a
Let's
few
go.
more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let me give you a perfect example. So I'm S3XO in South Korea. It was a battalion who was a cadre battalion. This is going to be in the book whenever it comes out. A cadre battalion where people used to show up once a year to do 2 weeks of training.
Okay.
We changed that battalion into the Army's decon and recon battalion in South Korea. And I did S3 first year. We trained Korean Army soldiers, Katusas, all right, aligned them with NCOs and platoon leaders and company commanders, stationed them across South Korea. S3 first, very focused. Battalion XO, I said, oh my, stationing decisions, barracks decisions, all those things, helped prepare me for what I needed to do next, which was become an international negotiator. What is that, right? I didn't know what that was, but that job, Joe, helped set me up to become the 20th Submarine Commander. So the guys who were there talking about how we're going to do biological weapons convention stuff that we ended up not participating in because it wouldn't help the U.S. government when we started talking about combating weapons of mass destruction. Remember all the stuff we were doing, Iraq, Afghanistan, Djibouti, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, all those places, those are the same people who were my level that were now policy level people when I was a one-star.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
Paid off. Yeah, it goes back to what you said at the beginning. Like,
That's right.
Things like
Yeah.
work out
Yeah.
for a reason.
And every assignment, every location provides you an opportunity if you can see it. There's many opportunities that exist, right? Like, I didn't want to become the Deputy Inspector General. I was the Commanding General of Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I had a driver, XO. I was walking around. I was a man. You get a phone call from the Chief of Staff, GOMO, the office, says the Chief of Staff of the Army requests you to move to the next job of being Deputy the Inspector General. I'm like, what's that? And then people are like, you don't want to be that Deputy IG. What are you talking about? I told General Allen, he was a vice at the time at a function. I said, General Allen, sir, who did I piss off to go to the job? He said nothing. He walked away. I was like, oh man, I'm going to get fired for this. But what I didn't realize was we were trying to change the culture of the IG enterprise, right? And then I also found out Dave Quantock was one of my mentors, says I want him as my deputy, right? So if I hadn't become the Deputy Inspector General, I would not have become the Inspector General.
Okay, so now looking back, like,
Yeah.
I'm curious, in those positions, because I think I was very lucky. Like, this never happened to me,
Okay.
but like, for you, if you got a job where like it gives you a little swift kick to the ego because it's not necessarily the one you were thinking about or the
Yeah.
one you wanted, like what advice would you give to people who?
Yeah, I would say you got to go through in order to get to where you got to go. Right? Everybody looks at somebody else's background. They see this is the route that I'm supposed to take, but that might not be the route that you're supposed to take. Right? Be comfortable in the route that you're on. I didn't want to do the international negotiation piece, right? Because I didn't think that was the right job, right? I mean, coming out of brigade command, this is a great story. The guy which job I thought I was going to retire to, so they put somebody else in there. So I was supposed to go to some other job, right? But the position opened up to be the G3 of the 20th Support Command. The 20th Submarine, it is now, it was a support command Submarine at the time, had never had a chemical officer as the commanding general. So I became the G3 while one of my other guys, buddies, Ray Van Pelt, became the DCO. So since I was the G3, I could become the commander because I understood the operations, right? So they made me the first chemical officer to command 20 Hibernian, which was a hard job. 17 states, 19 installations, 3 to 5 countries. We went through the surge. We lost 13 soldiers in that 3-year time frame with all the stuff going on. But sometimes you got to be the first person to step into it, just like being the CG of Fort Leonard Wood, right? Who wants to go to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri?
I don't know.
Well, but the point was, it was what you had to do, right?
Yeah.
To be a brigade commander, to be a commandant, and then come back to be the CG, maneuver support. That's where I met General Brown for the second time.
Okay.
Right? You see how this works?
Yeah.
Right? And so that's how those things work. And I become the Inspector General. That's how I'm here at AUSA. It's all about relationships.
And that's what I've learned. We'll start wrapping this thing up.
Sure.
But all career advice is autobiographical.
Yes.
I couldn't have, with my gifts, my talents, my values, couldn't have followed your exact path. It just wouldn't have worked. I had to go do my path.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times as leaders, we try to mirror ourselves onto our subordinates, and you got to do this.
Yeah, I think you have to show them your path, but show them opportunities to be themselves, right? Because
That's great.
Because I have 2 daughters, completely different. One is a CEO of her own advertising company, and the other one is an Army doctor. I mean, left and right, but they all chose a path. And our job in the village is to show them opportunities, and not only show them opportunities, but open the doors. That's what mentorship is about.
That's great.
So when I ask people, we had this group, I asked them, say, hey, tell me what you want to be when you grow up. They all, what do you mean? I want to be a company XO. I said, no, that's your next job. What do you want to be when you grow up? Somebody says, well, I want to open a gym. I want to be a physical therapist. Those 2 people that told me this, we started talking about, let's figure out how you get there.
Right.
Guess who else wants to be a physical therapist? My nephew. I was just 2 weeks ago when I was in Philadelphia, but Phoenix, ran into a company that does performance training. It's like a gym on steroids, right? But you got to go to these places to understand those things. But let me close with this. We all have opportunities to do things. Our job is to take the opportunities that we receive, show them to others so they can see the path. You cannot be what you can't see. That's why I spend time with Boys and Girls Club. That's why I spend time with Kappa Alpha Psi and mentorship of young people, especially young men. That's why I spend time with my church, because our job is to take what we know and to share it with others.
Yes.
If I just keep it with myself, it doesn't do any good.
So it's to close this out, you
Sure.
started out your village got you on this path.
That's right.
And now you're
That's right.
doing the same for the younger members of the village.
Yeah. And it's not only younger. I mean, sometimes peer learning is as important or more important than others. And so we have to be open to share information because it helps everybody get better. Just like me spending time with you, as you get better, I get better. Together.
That's awesome.
That's right.
Well, General Smith, thank you so much for your time. This was awesome. Thanks for the invite, too.
Sure.
I've had a blast working with your team this week. Man, just a
great team.
group of people.
Yeah.
And this has been an awesome event to be a part of. And now that I'm, out of the village, you get to come back in.
That's right.
And help pour back into it.
No, you're not out of the village. You're never out of the village. You're just expanding your village.
Yeah.
Right? You'll always be part of the Army village.
Yeah.
You'll always be part of AUSA village. You're just taking your village and, have you seen the growth of nations?
Yes.
How they ebb and flow? That's what you're doing. We ebb and flow in different places.
Awesome. Well,
All
thank
right,
you so
brother.
much.
Yeah, same here, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So welcome to the show, Sergeant Major Blaisdell.
I can't believe you invited me.
I can't either.
I'm not that important.
You are.
I don't think so. I was so excited to see you. It's like seeing a celebrity.
No.
It wasn't the same as going up to your office.
Yeah.
You're a commander.
And that's what, it's really different now. So now I get to ask you questions.
I know. You see, your soldiers still talk about you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Sergeant
Yeah,
Major.
they do. They're like, I was the green notebook guy, and they're like, yes.
Yeah.
We miss him. He was a good commander.
So for our listeners, Sergeant Major Blaisdell and I served together He was 5th Corps. He still is the 5th
Yeah.
Corps Sergeant Major. I was a squadron commander. But I want to go back earlier in your career to what would probably be considered like the crucible of your leadership journey, which was your time as a platoon sergeant.
Oh yeah, platoon sergeant. That was a fun time.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So platoon sergeant, you're a platoon leader. It's like the last time you really know your soldiers. Like you know where they're like almost everything about them. Because once you get the first sergeant, you got 3 platoons. You know, but you know once you leave that, you get to battalion and above. It's very hard. But it was just it's a platoon sergeant. So when I reported to my platoon, I just talked to the leadership forum about it, and I didn't have a platoon leader. I was supposed to go to Charlie Company, first 502nd, and I ended up Matt Zayas, you know him, he's good, really good. He's retired now. Good. He said, "Oh, Phil, I changed it so you come to my company." So he's company commander. So I took over a platoon. It was odd. They didn't have a platoon leader, but they had a platoon sergeant, and the platoon sergeant was at ANOC. And I was like, "What? I'm taking over a platoon that already has a platoon sergeant." Oh yeah, he's moving to first platoon when he gets back. And he goes, "Anyone gonna tell him?" So he ends up showing up, and I'm at his desk. I didn't mess with this stuff. I was working around, and it was really even weird was telling the soldiers like, "I mean, the platoon sergeant." They go, "We already have a platoon sergeant," you know. But then it was when you're with that platoon, 3rd Platoon, Bravo Company, 1st 502nd. It's like I just think about how really the love I had for them. I see all their faces right now. The squad leaders, the NCOs, the build cohesive teams through, mutual trust, the trust that was built. And they weren't perfect. They did a lot of dumb shit. But it was I was accountable for them. And when they did stuff, it was, I found in leadership when you own it as a leader, like you're gonna make mistakes, your soldiers are gonna make mistakes, and you're pointing the fingers at the soldiers, and you're looking at yourself in the mirror like, what could have I done better so that this didn't happen? And it's better for that to happen in training prior to combat, because in combat you might have to live with it the rest of your life.
Right.
Some of the
and you led these guys in combat.
Yeah. So how much platoon leader time did you have?
I had 32 months.
Damn.
Yeah.
Platoon leader, rifle platoon leader.
32 months.
Okay. I had 18.
Yeah.
As a platoon leader.
But I went through platoon sergeants like you went through platoon leaders, and
I didn't have any.
Well, that's right.
There wasn't a bench. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I took this platoon, 3rd Platoon, my platoon. They like to call themselves Joe Force. Yeah, Joe Force, Joe Force. They used to chant it from the back. And it was simple. There were small things that you can do as a leader at that echelon, as a platoon, even as first sergeant, that, like, I'm telling you, like, and I know leaders out there are doing it. Like, so they all come in. My CP was at the very end of you forget how it was all set up, by the supply cage.
Right.
They'd all just stand around, and some would like sit on the floor. It was cold out. It was like November. So it's me, my son, who was a little kid at the time, went to Lowe's, and we bought. I just bought some 4x8s or something. Just the board, and I bought cinder blocks, and I just made these benches.
Right.
And you'd have thought like they were fighting on who could sit on it. It was just cinder blocks. It could maybe cost me $30 or something total, spending the day with my son. But it's little things like that they're like they couldn't believe it, and I didn't tell them I did it. Eventually they found out because like the CQ saw me or something. But I think about those as the leader at that level, those little things that you can do that really can have an effect on their morale and their teamwork.
Because the cinder blocks and the board,
Yeah.
like that represented a place where you could interact with him
Yep.
a lot more and like actually coach and mentor those guys.
Yep.
Versus, I mean, again, like a very small
Small.
addition to your workspace.
Small, and that would carry, that would go on. And we also made hands on the floor for when they got in trouble.
Okay, let's talk
Yeah.
about that, because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people struggle with like leadership, especially at like junior levels. Like I didn't learn till later the importance of holding people accountable, and I learned a lot of those lessons the hard way. So for like younger leaders who are getting into it, they want to be respected. They want to be a part of the team, but they also have like a responsibility to hold themselves and to hold each other accountable. So how do you?
That's good because it's talked about a lot. And you hear SMA talk about it, holding people accountable. You don't have to be a jerk to make a correction. I see a soldier I say, hey, you take your hand out of your pocket. I've actually told soldiers to put their hands in their pockets. In Alaska, when I'd see a soldier without gloves on, and I'd say, hey, where's your gloves? Oh, sorry, Major, they're in that car. I said, listen, usually I'd make them run to the car and get it, but I want them to slip on the ice and stuff, because I'd say, put your hands in your pockets, go back to your car and get your gloves.
Right.
And they look like a penguin walking across the parking lot. But I have to yell. Do I have to like demean them? Or a sergeant, make a soldier do push-ups? I've done millions of push-ups in my time. I don't do it anymore. I just call brigade sergeant majors or division sergeant majors. But holding people accountable is, come on, man, what are we doing? And then using, sometimes I'm wrong. I had a young sergeant that he was wearing I think he was wearing a black. I remember you could only wear the tan with this, the tan beanie.
Right.
Black was for PT. I don't know. I just always did it. And I didn't know that you could wear the black with this. This is a couple years ago. And I asked him, I said, hey, are you supposed to be wearing that beanie? It was well below 35 degrees, so
right.
it was legit. And he goes, I think I am, Sergeant Major. And I go, you sure? And he goes, I don't know. And I don't know either. I was a sergeant. I was honest with him. I was like, I don't know either. Can you look it up and let me know so I know? So
for me, like I learned I had to hold people accountable because I saw things that happened on deployments that were dumb, where people could have almost gotten killed. But as I like reflect back on my leadership as a platoon leader, if I would have come in holding people accountable, we may have never gotten to those.
But you also don't want to be feared, Joe.
Right. So like, when you learn to hold people accountable, like what have you seen happen when folks aren't held accountable?
Yeah. So part of it is when you earn their trust, like and they know 100% that you care. They're gonna feel like awful when they disappoint you. It's like your kids.
Right.
No one likes to spank their kid. And when they do, they're like crying as the kid's crying. Everybody's crying because everyone hurt. And it's almost like they know it, they're discussing themselves. And then some just, if they keep doing it, some just can't. They can't adapt to our values in the Army. And you got to be honest with them, like, hey man, it's not gonna work. You got to find something else to do. But other ones to turn around and have an empathy, because I got in lots of trouble when I was a soldier. I had 3 Arctic 15s, all 3. But I had good leadership that really cared about me, and they believed in me, and I knew that. And that last Article 15, my extra duty was so awful. I never wanted to get, and I didn't. I get in trouble again. It was, but most of all, I was more disappointed in myself because I disappointed my first sergeant, my platoon sergeant, and my squad leader. Yeah. It was a long time ago, but I think about that. So as a first sergeant, every time I did at UCMJ, the readings and stuff, I would be honest with them. Hey, I've been in your shoes. I've been standing in front of my first sergeant before, and I believe that you can get through this. Take your punishment like a good soldier and move on. And once it's done, it's important for the team leader and the peers to pull this soldier back in. See, if you shun them like a black sheep, usually that goes south. So
Yeah, I've always, and I say always, but like I learned it through experience and reading and stuff. But you know, like when you mess up, it can either defeat you, define you, or develop you. And what I learned, especially in command, was like the hardest days for me were Article 15s. Because by then, they're feel-great Article 15s. I'm taking pay, I'm restricting folks, I'm doing all sorts of stuff. And those were so heavy for me. But as soon as it was over and the person did their punishment, like that's it. You know, like you've paid your time. And I remember interviewing Chris Hadfield, the Canadian astronaut, for the podcast. And he told me there wasn't a problem, there's never a problem so bad that you can't make it worse. And I used to tell the guys this, the men and women this when I was giving them Article 15s. It was like, hey, you've got punishment, this is it. Like, you could make this a lot worse by not showing up to extra duty, like really going south. And what I noticed is a lot of those people that stood in front of me that I took their rank, like even now that I'm out, I'm watching those young former NCOs become NCOs again. I'm like shooting them messages on Facebook.
It's a good feeling, isn't it?
Instagram. I was like, I knew you could do it, man. I knew you could do it.
Telling you, man, that's probably the best part about our business. Our career is seeing I got guys that were privates that are now brigade sergeant majors, like brand new privates showing up to me in my platoon, my first platoon. I took to combat, watched them fight, and now they're brigade sergeant majors. It blows my mind. I'm so proud of them. And that's part of like when you know, I'm old, man. Like I'm getting ready. You know, it's time to pass that on to the younger generation. And it's not hard because I like the younger generation. It's time for them to start doing this. But just seeing those soldiers do good and bad, ugly, and they come through it and they make themselves better. It's a good feeling as a leader.
It is. Now, how has your leadership style changed from, platoon sergeant, first sergeant, battalion to now the Corps CSM?
I don't think at all.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe my soldiers would tell you over the years. When I was a squad leader in the 82nd, I was the toughest. I was really tough, like PT and training. But there was mechanisms where, what was that training? Remember the mandatory training we had to do quarterly?
Yeah.
Was it ST? It was SD. We would get called in. But I knew this is a good thing. Like for commanders, your training calendar, like it says on there exactly what commander has approved, the battalion commander to the company commander, this stuff. But then one day, as at Fort Bragg back in the 90s, like you get called in, like, come on, we got alert, the red Corvette.
Red Corvette, yeah.
You come in, and that's when as a leader you got tested. Like your soldiers were going to go out onto Gavin Field or something and go under a tent or something and have to do all that stuff that we were told to do that quarter to train on. And then if your soldier didn't do good, obviously you weren't doing your job as a leader. So that's where I really started taking that stuff serious. And it's really important. But as far as the leadership, that's where I really became humble, because if I'm not, like, this is like one of my guys failed like every station. You know, he wasn't the best soldier, but he was still my soldier. I own that soldier. Like, that's my responsibility. And I was like, I'm not going to focus so much on PT and everything anymore. You know, I still am, but I have to be well balanced.
Right.
But as far as the leadership, when I was a Ranger instructor, I noticed RIs. It's weird. It's like two types of Ranger instructors. There's the ones that yell all the time and chasing people around, and the other ones that are like quiet and following. Like they'll smoke. If they do something wrong, we're gonna hold them accountable or lose something. But I just stopped, because I'm like, I'm not going to be like that, man. Because my thing when I was a Ranger instructor, I truly, and I got a lot of shit for it. I truly wanted all of the people I wanted them to pass. And I would tell them, I want all of you to get a go. That's my goal. It never happened. But in any rangers out there I trained at, I was at 4th RTB, I think that I would stay until I was forced to come in during training prior to them going on patrols. And I took it very serious. And at graduation, I would see them, and they would stop me sometimes, like in the PX and stuff. Sergeant Blaisdell, I'm Ranger so-and-so. A ton of Rangers. But they I told her, I recycled every phase, but I'm like, oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So when I became a platoon sergeant, I just didn't, once in a while, I really found that holding your squad leaders accountable is the right way to do it. And really, talent management at the platoon level, you don't get to choose your soldiers. First sergeant does. It's where you place those soldiers in that platoon. And I would usually sit down with, even if it's a private, and I would talk to them, and I had like 10 questions or something. Like, hey, where are you from? The basic stuff you want to know from your soldier. What did you do in high school? What are your hobbies? How were you in school? And based off of that short time with that new soldier, I kind of had an idea where they would thrive, which team leader.
Yeah, just asking those questions is that was something I found too, like in command. Like there were people who had superpowers that weren't necessarily aligned with their MOS or their job. Like I'm thinking of Specialist Crouch, he's now out. He's like a video game developer.
Yeah.
In Europe. Yeah.
I wish he was here.
But I was wanting to build a PT app.
Yeah.
For my squadron.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, but he did it.
He did it.
But it was like asking questions, like
they're there.
Talking to soldiers, like, hey, like what are you into?
Joe, they're there.
Yeah,
they're out there.
Knowing that,
yes.
And that like made him like that was what he enjoyed doing, like on the weekends and in the evenings.
Yeah.
So
kind of going all over the place.
That's fine.
But I could listen. When I was in Alaska, right? I was getting soldiers from Miami. Had never seen snow coming to Fairbanks in January, February. And they were traumatized. So I went to Fort Benning, and this is mostly infantry in 19s and 11s. And I said, hey, how come the drill sergeants can't identify, they get the orders before the AIT they were at the time. Like, can't they raise their hand and say, like, hey, this guy's from Puerto Rico?
Right.
Like, why we send him to Alaska?
Right.
It's just cold and dark and miserable up there. It's just, and it's not, you get people say, oh, these are soldiers, they do what they're told to do. Well, no, okay?
Yes.
That's the easy way out.
Right.
Okay, yeah. So, it's like, actually go there. And I went to CIF because the G4 and AMC, they were doing the new storefront, CIF. So all the soldiers were getting because I was having serious issues with cold weather gear up in Alaska. They were still wearing the old gray, what we used to call it, the stuff we had in Iraq.
Yeah.
I forget it now.
I'm every day in retirement, Sir Major, I forget something that I used to.
Maybe I need to retire. So the one we all like, what?
Yeah,
Looks like you're the cement that we had a couple years ago. Yeah, they were still wearing that stuff.
Yeah.
And they were only getting issued one pair of the level 5s, the stuff that they needed like during the day. They have to wear it during the day. But then guess where they also had to wear it? At PT. So the soldiers are doing PT in this uniform, getting out, taking a shower, and then putting it, they had under stuff on, but it's like, why don't they get 2 sets?
Right.
Oh, we don't have. Anyway, so I go to Fort Benning, and it's weird we can call it Fort Benning now. It's back, I guess. It's weird.
It's back, yes.
But, they were actually excited, the civilians, which I really appreciated, and they had all the cold weather stuff laid out. And they said, okay, this is all the stuff that every soldier gets. This is the stuff that soldiers going to Fort Drum in Alaska get. I was like, this is great. Thank God, this is awesome. So now these new soldiers are coming with all this stuff they're getting from basic and AIT, and they carry it forward. So then I address there's all these, like this room right here. Just imagine a bunch of soldiers and PTs they had their hair, and they had their boots on with their PTs. Like,
right.
Dude, they didn't know what was going on. And I said, hey, who are these guys? And the sergeant major there goes, oh, the sergeant major there, the new, they just got here, like they're getting, you got to get haircuts and everything. And I was like, oh. And I said, oh, watch this. And I said, hey, everyone, listen to me. And they're all like, yes, sir. They didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
were trying to stand up. Like, no, everyone sit. And I said, how many of you, if you grew up where it snowed, raise your hand. And like, I don't know, maybe it's 50, maybe 25 raised their hand. And then, and I said, how many of you have had the opportunity with your hands up would like to go to and serve in Alaska? And like only 3 people put their hand down. And then the kid in the front row, sir, I'm from Florida, but I'd like to go to Alaska.
Oh, man.
Anyway, my point is like, it was that easy. I don't know why it was so hard. I mean, it's good now. We've come a long way, General Eifler, and but it was just so funny how, because drill sergeants know them. Drill sergeants are with them for 22 weeks. That's a long time,
right?
If we're getting to know our soldiers in our rifle platoons, and a couple of weeks, a couple days, a weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Again, I just there's like a lot of things that I think we take for granted. Like if you're not deliberate in leadership, asking questions, holding people accountable,
talking to people,
yeah.
You'd be amazed how much information you get just talking to young soldiers.
Yeah,
PX is the best. Food courts, love it.
Yeah, I used to. I've talked about this on the podcast before, but like me and Sergeant Major Yelly. And then Sergeant Major Trevino, like the PT we did with the soldiers, bringing them in, several days a week, and it was just us, a squad, and then the PT program we had, and like I learned so much in that 1 hour a day, doing like sweating alongside of them, really pushing myself, talking trash, all those things that I would have never learned if I was the battalion commander that was off on the long runs, like by myself.
Yeah, and also you gotta the best thing about those is you can hear and you can actually solve problems.
Right.
You can solve problems that you would never know about. I solve problems sometimes at my level that is so easy. I'm like, man, a first sergeant could have done this. Like, why? But it's usually at these weird opportunities in the chow hall or at PT, or they say, hey man, how you doing?
Yeah. Well, one of the reputations you have is somebody who's very invested in the formation all the way down.
Yeah.
How do you recharge yourself? Like, how do you like make time for you outside the duty day?
Oh.
Is that even a thing?
It is. So it's been hard the last 2, but it's like I'm not complaining because I love the job. Like I love partners and allies, soldiers. It's so weird having 5th Corps has so many different organizations under a corps. You got people from 3rd Corps, you got people from 18th Airborne Corps. We even have people from 1st Corps out here.
Right.
Which I thought was where I told General McFarland, I go, hey, I got some of you. I saw them with their 1st Corps patches and posing on it, and I said, oh, what are you guys doing here? You're supposed to be out in the Pacific.
A little bit of everybody.
Yeah. But it's because General Costanza and I pretty much live in Pozdon.
Right.
And people always go, Phil, how come you don't spend more time at Fort Knox? And I'm like, well, think about you're a squadron commander, and you have, your HHC platoon in Germany, but your entire squadron is in, Lithuania.
Yeah.
Where would you?
I'm in Lithuania.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I hate it, but it's just, it's almost, you feel guilty. It's like going home on leave when you're deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan.
Okay, so maybe that's a better question. Like when you're forward all the time, how do you recharge?
Usually, I hang out with Reggie, Sergeant Robitaille, my my enlisted assistant.
Yeah.
When we travel, or I do stuff with sometimes Bohannon. We go bike rides. We do PT on the weekends. But me and General Costanza live in the barracks. We have room. Do barracks like this last Saturday. I did some serious barracks maintenance, like serious.
But like that filled you up with cleaning?
Yeah, so we made this one room into like it was like a swing room for generals, and no one ever used it. So I said, hey, let's make a chill room, like we can watch TV, and so we got a foosball table. And it's like a day room for generals and sergeant majors.
Okay.
Which I robotized. Some of the other people come, but they have their own. They have a whole MWR and everything.
Right.
But so I scrubbed the floors, and we got a shop vac now, which is exciting. We got a grill coming in the mail.
Nice.
We're gonna make some steaks. It's so that kind of, and then just I don't really travel much because I don't really get a whole lot of time off. Usually Sunday is really the only day. But we make the best of it. We spend time together. And it's important that we like to spend time together. Me, General Costanza, the DCGs, Bohannon, and then the enlisted Rodriguez and Robitaille. So that's my team.
So that's a good question. Then, working for General Costanza, you work for other senior leaders. You've since platoon sergeant, or I guess since first sergeant, have had an officer counterpart.
Yes.
What advice would you have for NCOs? As they're going into that relationship, whether it's with the company commander, battalion commander, brigade commander, all the way up to General Costanza.
That is such an important. Sometimes I think the NCO Corps, we talk about it, but like the development of a young platoon leader. When you hear generals, like 3- and 4-star generals, can drop their first platoon sergeant's name, even though it was like 35, 40 years ago. And talk about how much they impacted their career. Like that guy, whoever that sergeant first class, a staff sergeant, he did it right.
Right.
And, I know you guys, but I just talked about that in the forum that your platoon leader time is so short that it's just a fact. You might go. You're different with you had longer, but
no, I mean even now.
You think about now,
like sometimes just by the way the manning cycle goes, like all I can get this person is 9 or 10 months. And then that's it.
That's a shame, huh?
Yeah.
But there's nothing you do because we've always done it that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need to change that. I've heard the chief and the SMA talk about it, and Sergeant Major Harris.
I think for me. I wasn't an XO, so I had to figure out property accountability.
Oh my God.
As a commander, the hard way. But getting those 32 months of platoon leader time, I think I learned more about leadership, about working with NCOs. Again, and in 15 of those months were in Iraq during the surge.
Yeah. Those other jobs are important, XO and.
Oh, it was very important. And I would explain people as I'm moving into XO, I was like, listen, you're going to learn, it's not going to be your favorite job, but you're going to learn skills in this job. They're going to save your butt in company command.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we won't get into it, but I remember there was a flipple that had to get signed off on in order for me to leave country as a company commander. Because I didn't know what I was doing. But I took those lessons I had time between, I'm sorry, making it about me, but I had time between my first command and second command. And I spent so much time reading the actual Army regulations on property accountability, understanding, the different types of responsibility, how to do things, like what the different classifications. I learned it backwards and forwards. And in my second command, I made it a point that myself and the XO were going to give a class to every single property holder because not only did one of the issues I found was that a lot of times the armorer, who is a specialist,
he has so much stuff.
Our sergeant is that kid is assuming hundreds and thousands of dollars of risk, and that's not even to mention the sensitive items aspect of their job. And nobody taught them how to manage property. So we would do a mini course, But I had to fail doing property accountability as a company commander the first time. And thankfully, they saw some promise in me. It gave me an HHC command for the second one. But yeah, it was just, it was
so much.
But going back to those initial leadership things is like, if you're only going to be a platoon leader for 8, 9, 10 months, you've got to get everything you can out of that job in order to be successful. So I think like for a platoon sergeant, you play a role in the development of that officer in that short period of time.
Huge. My first platoon leader was a guy named Mark Evans. He's still in. I had to reach out to him. You know, he got wounded the first day we got into first patrol we went on. Like we did the left to right seat stuff, but the first day we went out together, and I never forget it. And he's fine, obviously, but he was pretty bad. And we medevaced him out, and we just thought, hey, because they would come up, the battalion commander, and say, you know, hey, Blaze, you need a platoon leader? And I'm like, no, we get away from Lieutenant Evans. Then I think my platoon, we were doing very good, doing a lot of good stuff, so they just let me without a platoon leader. And part of that was my son. We only had like 3 months. He made an impact in like 2 or 3 months. He went through you guys go through your hazing ritual, you know. He hung all the stuff up on the ceiling and the stuff we do to PLs. But we're just testing them, you know. But he came through clean, and all the soldiers loved him. So I got the thing going, and now I got a platoon leader, so I can focus solely on platoon sergeant stuff. And we go to NTC. We did JRTC. I took him to JRTC alone, then we went to NTC, and then we were getting ready to deploy. Everything was great. We were a great team. We talked all the time, you know. Then boom, he's gone, you know. And so that was tough. And then we went through the rest. Then I got a new platoon leader at the very end of the deployment. He's still in. He's doing a great job too. But so for company level, that is like critical. A company commander, especially in combat. So I took over Bravo Company 2, 2nd to 502nd. The first sergeant was removed, some stuff, and I couldn't understand what was going on because it was a really good company, really good commander. This guy named George Morris. He's still in the Army. You know George. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And he's like, there was so much not getting done or too much getting done at the, like, stuff he shouldn't be worried about. He's a commander. He's command. He's out on patrols and doing, you know, meeting the commander's intent. And that's what he said. I said, what's going on? Like, what happened? Like, what do you need me to do? And he goes, First Sergeant, just do like first sergeant stuff. I just need to command.
Right.
I'll never forget it. And that's the relationship with the company, troop battery, XO, and the first sergeant. That, if you get a good XO and a first sergeant, that's gonna work together. Like you're gonna have, your command time's gonna be very easy.
Right.
Yeah. So I learned at that level, and then I had Delta Company, 2nd, 502nd, yeah. And me and that XO, Chris Baldwin, he's still, I think he's still in the Pentagon. I had to check on him. He was funny because I was in Iraq, and these guys didn't have anything. Like, so I was like, hey, I found this Iraqi carpenter, like to just come in and build us stuff. So I said, I need more wood. And so that was like, whenever he would call me, I would say, sir, don't say anything until you tell me you got more wood.
Right.
And it's a running joke. And now when I was the G357 sergeant major, he's in the building. It was like, more wood.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so that is kind of, and you know, and take pride when you guys, like George Morris, you know, he's a colonel now. Like, that's awesome. I'm like imagine like one of my old officers becomes a general. I'm like, oh, I did it right.
You'll take credit for it, yeah. I figured you would.
Not take credit for it, but
I
be
know.
proud, you know?
Yeah, I think that's an important thing too, is like, I went through 3 platoon sergeants, and only one of them was the final one, who was a hungry E6 staff sergeant. I think he felt a need to develop me.
Yeah.
And it was a little too late.
Yeah.
But You know, like I just think that that's like an important aspect of it. And even as a commander, like I felt like I was still getting developed.
You got to know your role.
Yeah.
Like, you're not. I tell some NCOs all the time, you guys, we don't have any command authority.
Yeah.
We're advisors. Like General Costanza, you know how I get stuff done for him? I just listen to him talk. If I hear a general say something twice, I'm on it. Like, I write it down.
Right.
I write it down one time, but 2 times, like a certain FOSS or a certain unit or something's going on, I'll either reach out to whoever I need to about whatever it is he's talking about, or if I'm going there, I'll go there and check on it myself. But then I'll bring it up to him. So a lot of when I go out, and he's got such a important job with the relationships with the CHODs and the land commanders and the different countries, and so I am the guy. It's so much better than you officers. We get to go out and like hang out with soldiers and do any training, and so that's where I'm kind of like the finger on the pulse of the organizations. But like right now, 1st Armored Division's here, Sergeant Major James Light, and General Taylor. It's been really easy. It's been easy, but right now, because I really know what I'm doing, I know where everything is, I know what's going on, so it's been good.
Yeah. That's awesome.
You just looked at your watch. We got to go.
Yeah, I just saw that.
What happened?
It just got the next.
Oh, hey, sir. How are you? We're doing a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure you plug you guys.
Yeah. So, I think it's so important. And then something else that you were saying is that, what when you hear General Costanza talk.
Yeah.
I think he's like talking about friction. Mm-hmm. And as like the advisor of the NCO, you're like, that's where I'm headed.
Yep.
That's what I'm gonna go take care of.
Well, it's like just go. Look out.
Look out.
Yeah,
go
look
check
out.
into.
You know,
so
because you don't want to assume anything yet.
Okay.
So for the way we do things is the envy of the world. Everybody wants to be like that. Every country, some are getting there, but no one has the officer-NCO relationship like the United States of America. You guys would not want to operate without us, right?
No,
not
at all.
No. Imagine being like you're a Russian platoon leader and you're in charge of 60 recruits where, 30 are conscripts, But if you die, no one knows what to do.
Right.
That's the greatest thing about the American Army. Our corporal knows what to do.
Right.
Because he has his commander's intent. He can accept prudent risk and get the mission done. He understands what the mission is.
Right.
Yeah, just like when Mark got wounded, in Iraq, my platoon leader, if I had got with him, like my squad leader, my weapons squad leader, he wouldn't have known what he would have taken over.
Right.
All the way down to the last private, probably.
Right.
That's the greatest thing about our country.
Yeah, I look back on my career and times where I either didn't have an NCO.
Yep.
Or times where I had a weak NCO.
Mm-hmm.
It made my job 30 times tougher than it was. But then those ones where that I can, and like you were saying, like I remember I can tell you their names. I can tell you exactly what they look like.
Yep.
I can tell you their favorite food.
Yep.
And those guys made all the difference.
Yeah, but it's us.
And it was together.
Yeah, it's us.
Yeah.
It's us. It's like, it's so, and then I've heard over the years, like, how come we don't get the same pay as officers and all this? Why didn't you go to OCS then?
Yeah.
Get your degree and go be an officer. We all had the opportunity at one point, and not that I love officers, but I chose to go this route, and I'm happy I did. But I advise my commander, all the way from platoon leader up.
Right.
But a good commander is going to get feedback. And it's weird, even with the generals, usually our stuff's like at dinner. Or, I'll notice he'll start injecting my talking points into when he's talking to commanders, because that's important as well. Because sometimes when it becomes important to the commander, it becomes important to all the commanders.
Right.
In your training meetings and stuff?
Yeah.
Remember? Sergeant Major Trino probably said, hey, sir, can you mention this?
Oh, yeah, it happened all the
company
time.
commanders would be like,
Yeah, and that was the other conversation I would have with him and the XO and the 3. Like, hey, what are things that I need to go heavy on today?
Yep.
And then and they were great about, hey, sir, this, and this. That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's such a good system that we have. But there's some people, sometimes I worry with officers, I'm gonna be honest here, that maybe they had a bad experience with an NCO at one point, and I don't know what happened, but they might be just kind of that trust will never get built again.
Right.
Seen the same with NCOs, have an officer that, and you hate seeing it and you wish you could fix it, but there's really nothing you can do about it, I've seen good officers get out of the Army because of a bad officer in charge, and it broke my heart because there was a lot of good officers that get out after my first deployment in Iraq. I'd beg them, like, come on, sir, like, you're a really good officer, like, the Army needs you, please stay.
Right.
No, sorry, Major, I never want to go through this again.
Yeah.
And you respect it, he just came back from a tough deployment, and it was sad. And that's the stuff that I hate to see.
Yeah. Well, Sergeant Major, I appreciate your time.
Is it over already?
Yeah, we've got to wind this stuff down.
We got to go to chow, huh?
Yeah.
I think I was supposed to do something a half hour ago.
Oops, there you go.
Well, are you like a celebrity walking around here? I feel good. You actually had me on your show.
No, I appreciate the
Usually you
time.
have, like, important people.
It was good serving with you over.
It's good serving with you.
Over here, yeah.
And hanging out once in a while.
Yeah. Well, enjoy the rest of LANDEURO.
Yeah,
enjoy the rest of the time with 5th Corps. And
you're always a member of 5th Corps. I told you that. Anytime, whatever you need, you let me know.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sergeant Major.
No, thank you, sir. Thanks so much.
Awesome.
It was fun.
What's up, Sarah? How are you?
Good.
Awesome.
I love the echo. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
All right. Do you want to just talk a little bit about yourself, and then I'll say a few things as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So he's a podcaster, right? So he's really good at doing the interviews. And I tried, as we were prepping for this, I'm like, I did spend 20 years interviewing people in the FBI. He's like, I got this.
Yeah.
And he does.
But
so
the difference
is
when I interview people, they open up. When she interviews people, they lawyer up.
Yeah, exactly. So I did, I'm an Army veteran. I'm one of the 3 Gen Xers that was on that thing. I know who one of the other 2 was, but I'm a little different generation. But I served in the Army for 8 years after West Point, and then went on to the FBI for 20. And I was a special agent, served across the country, working all of our different investigative programs at some different points in my career, and kind of collecting lessons along the way, lessons about how to do the work, but way more importantly, how to take care of myself, how to lead best, and how to support those I lead in doing all those things as well. So it's kind of what I do now in my retirement, is help other leaders, both emerging leaders, new leaders, informal leaders, former leaders, senior leaders, at every level, really be thoughtful about how they take care of themselves and how they bring their best self to whatever they're doing, so that they can continue to lead for the long haul. I've experienced myself, as well as I've been around a lot of people with a lot of burnout and exhaustion, and just not doing their best, just kind of surviving. And I know there's a better way, because I had to figure it out for myself. So, Joe?
Right. Speaking of figuring things out, so I was a junior, senior in high school, and I decided that I wanted to go into the military. I applied to Naval Academy, to West Point. I didn't have the grades to get in. I ended up going to North Georgia College and State University, which is the University of North Georgia now. And I ended up applying there because my mom went and got the brochure out of the trash can because I didn't want to go there. And it started me on this military journey. I didn't take my profession too seriously early on. And then over time, I realized that the importance of studying the profession, of mastering your craft, was a cornerstone of my development. I went from reading just a handful of books a year to like 40 and 50 books a year. And as Angela said before, started from the Green Notebook as a captain. And it became this big leader development platform for the entire Army, with submissions not just from U.S. soldiers and leaders, but from our allies and partners too. And I retired last July. I retired out of Germany Battalion Command, and came back to the U.S. I live in North Carolina now, and I spend most of my time reading and writing. I work with Ryan Holiday, and help him with some of his stuff as my day job. So, speaking of questions, me as a podcaster now asking questions, and you spending a career asking questions, what have you learned, Sarah, about questions?
It's been a journey for sure. So being a career investigator, and even going back, I was military police in the Army, so really about 28 years in law enforcement as a whole. I kind of got pretty good at the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, why, like getting information from people. And it wasn't until I was beginning the transition from retirement on to my current career in coaching, professional coaching, that I started actually learning about coaching, and a big part of that is learning about questions. And I realized all of my information gathering, while important, it gets a job done, wasn't helping anyone get to know themselves any better. I mean, it served a different purpose, but as a leader, a different tactic is necessary, both as a leader as well as for yourself. Finding a way to help people reflect is way more valuable as a leader than just getting the facts of what has happened and giving the information that people need to do a mission. And so when you look at the growth of another person, I learned that asking better questions is really key. And so those types of questions that help people reflect, those types of questions that help people grow, the types of questions that maybe provide a mirror for someone or hold space for something uncomfortable, those are quite critical. In fact, I've learned so much about myself and how I had previously approached people in leadership and how I do now, that ask better questions. That very phrase is one of my leadership principles, so learning how to do that. And it's not always with asking questions. Sometimes it's just reflecting, sharing, holding space, but providing that opportunity for others is really valuable to me. How about you?
I thought that when I was a junior officer, I thought that you had to have all the answers as a senior leader. And what I realized throughout the course of my career, and I spent, before I went to battalion command, I spent several years working for senior leaders, one of them being General Donahue. And what I found was that those leaders, they lead by asking questions. And instead of being the person with all the answers, they became the person with all the questions. And I learned the importance of leading with curiosity. Whether it was, we're working on some sort of mission, and asking the right questions to people to draw out their level of expertise, or like you said, like from a development perspective, if something's going on with somebody, not just writing them off, but asking questions and trying to get to the bottom of what the issue is. And so I think that was something that over the course of my career, I too realized that the questions a lot of times are way more important than having all the answers.
I love that point about drawing things out of people, because we've probably all been in that room where the person who speaks the most is the one that really gets their voice heard most often. And I've seen that it's so valuable for a leader in that capacity to recognize like those folks that maybe don't feel as comfortable speaking up, and find a way to draw that information from them as well, knowing that everyone has something meaningful to contribute. Getting to know your people and finding the right way to get them to be comfortable to share as well.
Yeah, and I found too that a lot of the people who work for me, and I don't know what your experiences are in here, but just because you're in a position or you have a rank doesn't necessarily align with like what your superpower is.
Yeah.
And so if you just have conversations with people, so on Mondays as a battalion commander, they used to call them I was squadron commander, so SCO walks. And typically when I was growing up, you would walk around with the commander, walk around a motor pool, look at vehicles, talk about maintenance. But I didn't do that. We just went on a long walk around Vilseck in Germany, and we would talk about life. And I would find out things about people that could help us, but it wasn't necessarily have anything to do with their role, their responsibility, their rank, their position, none of that. It was something completely different. And so, for an example, I had a lieutenant who was my assistant S2, and I found out that she was a level 2 certified CrossFit coach. And like if you've ever been in a line unit, the S2 a lot of times is responsible for like weather reports, making sure arms rooms are locked up, not a lot of fun stuff. But it was amazing. She took over our fitness program, designed the whole thing, led it, taught soldiers proper lifting techniques and everything. But I would have never known that if I didn't ask the question. And so again, I can't emphasize, I wish it was something I would have done earlier on in my career.
Absolutely. And recognizing the superpowers of others and yourself. I mean, later today, when I talk with you, we're going to do some strengths work, but strengths, superpowers, what it is, those unique things that make you, you, those gifts, those contributions you have, are so critical for all of us. I mean, the challenges we're faced with in any profession, in society as a whole, are immense. And it takes all of us having our superpowers and bringing our best selves and our strengths to those situations for us to be able to solve what's ahead of us, what we're facing right now, as well as what's ahead of us. And as a leader, recognizing maybe people don't even realize that themselves, but you can ask the questions that help them discover that amongst themselves, for themselves. That's pretty great.
Yeah, it was the same thing too, and we'll move on, but it was the same thing too with career stuff. Especially for folks that are just coming into the military. When you raised your right hand when you were younger, you were signing up for something that you thought was going to be a certain way. And maybe you're in that position and realizing that this wasn't exactly what you thought it was going to be, or your strengths and weaknesses don't really align with the job you're doing. And so even asking those questions and getting to the bottom of it, sometimes I've found that just somebody wasn't in the right swim lane, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so we would help get them in another career field or go do something else. But again, it's this idea of asking questions. Like what we're talking about is kind of change in paradigm, change in belief that we've had throughout our careers. So what is a major one that you had when you were younger? Could be when you were a rising special agent or when you were a junior officer that as you've gotten older, you realize that was a dumb belief. I shouldn't have wasted so much time and energy on it.
Many, of course. So we learn, we grow over time, and it's a lot of reflection that helps you figure those things out. I heard something recently. I read it somewhere, probably LinkedIn, I think. And I'm going to misquote it here. But it was essentially like, you're the main character of your own story, right? You're not the main character of anyone else's story. And that second piece has been really relevant to me because I put a lot of pressure on myself in my earlier years, my earlier self, my earlier professional time to meet what I expected or perceived or imagined others' expectations to be. And frankly, I don't think as many people were probably paying as much attention to me and how I was performing. They were just worried about their own performance. And once I finally discovered that, and I can share how I figured that out, it's kind of a little aside, but once I discovered that, it helped me be my best self, right? Be able to bring my strengths and gifts. But it also helped me, it opened up my aperture to see that in others as well, and to notice what others do. And there's, I think, a risk sometimes in professions, say of the military or law enforcement, where there is a uniform, there is a look, there's great standards. For a good reason, we have these things. There is a risk of feeling like there has to be sameness in how we do things. There has standards, absolutely, but sameness in how we act, sameness in how we talk, sameness in how we do everything. And I really do believe now that recognizing who you are at your best, at yourself at your best, is so valuable. How about you?
Yeah, amen. I there's something that I picked up along the way, and this is like, if anything I say later today or right now, like this is the one thing to write down. All career advice is autobiographical.
Yes.
And I remember coming up as a junior officer and sitting down with majors, lieutenant colonels, and even general officers, And they would tell me, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. If you want to do this, you've got to do this. And what they were telling me was their career path, what they did to get to the point where they were at in their lives. And I didn't realize this until later, but I didn't necessarily, we each have our own set of values, things that we find important. And I was so worried about what they thought and what they did that I was not living my career. I was living theirs. I was like following their career path. And eventually I sat down and I slowed down and I asked myself, what are the things that I value? And I did that through personal reflection. And that gave me a piece of strength that I could start making decisions for myself. And to what you said, Sarah, like, I'm the main character of my own story. Nobody else is. And so if I want to go to this, if I wanted to go to this assignment, if I wanted to do this job, that is what I was going to do. And when I was a post-company commander, I had a brigade commander. I wanted to go teach at this course called the Cavalry Leaders Course. It was 3 weeks. It's TRADOC. And it's, for those of you in the Army, you know that there's certain assignments that are like sexy assignments that if you go do them, you're going to keep rising. And they wanted me to be a general's aide. The brigade commander did, and he was going to put my name in the hat for it because he's like, this is going to be the thing that's going to help you achieve your goals. You're going to get below the zone, blah, 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 blah. I didn't want to do that at all. And eventually, I had to tell him, because the general he wanted me to go work for was about to deploy, he kept saying, like, no, I'm your career manager. And so I had to have the guts and the strength to look at him. And I told him that I cared more about the ring on my finger than my uniform. And so I'll go do this job, but as soon as it's over, I'm getting out. And I'd like to thank you for it. He got so mad. I don't recommend doing that. He got so mad, but he respected the fact that I stood firm in that decision, and I was going to live my career. And all those goals that I had, I achieved it my own way, doing my own thing, not doing what he did. And so I just encourage all of you, no matter what it is, and if you've ever heard General Donahue talk, that people told him not to go into the Ranger Regiment. That was his goal. People told him not to go into a special mission unit. That was his goal. And he survived all of it, and he's thrived in all of it. So I encourage you to, one, figure out your values, and then two, is just remember that all career advice is autobiographical. And so as people are telling you, you need to do this, you need to do that, just remember, that's their path. That's not necessarily yours.
I love that. I love that. All career advice is autobiographical. And at the same time, and I don't even think it's a different side of the coin. I believe it's the same coin. Like, the wisdom of others that can share with us is wonderful, but the core, as Joe's saying, is getting to know yourself and what's important to you and those in your life. And I do kind of a little tangent from this, but I do think that's pretty important, really important when you talk about the ring on your finger is more important than anything else. Like, my husband and I were both FBI agents, and he did some roles that it was rare to have a spouse who was employed, period, much less another agent, just because of the hours and the months gone and different things. And to make those careers work, we had to have this constant recalibration. Across 20 years, we did this together, and we made decisions as a team. Who's going to be the lead parent? Who's going to be the lead parent for us? We chose to have kids, but who's going to be the lead parent during this time? Who's going to be the lead agent? And we went back and forth throughout our careers. It was this constant recalibration. I got that advice from no one, because every person who went high, one career was the star the whole time, and the other career, if there was another one, was the support career. And so I think it's so important to recognize if you are in a relationship with another, whether it's a marital relationship or another relationship, a parental, or you're taking care of parents. If you're in a relationship with another, make sure you're having those conversations and then continue to have those conversations throughout your career. I look now back at my career with hindsight and the benefit of 2020. And we walked out those doors together, right? Like, I walked out with my family. That's who I walked out with. I had 2 more that I walked out with than I came in with, but all 4 of us were out of the career together by the time we retired. And that is was pretty important to us.
Well, how did, both you and your husband are pretty ambitious. How did those conversations go?
Yeah, they weren't they weren't always easy. I mean, there were definitely times we wanted to do things that we couldn't. So they were regular conversations, not like every week. I mean, you get so wrapped up in the day-to-day when you're parenting. Like that is literally spreadsheets and tag team parenting at times. You do get wrapped up in. Those aren't the conversations I'm talking about. Those are necessary. But it's really the career decisions. Like I'm thinking about this assignment, or so-and-so talked with me about putting in for this. What do you think? What would that do for you? We might leave from this state and move across the country to that state. Would there be opportunities for you there? And so when the big things come up, and then just those regular check-ins, like we do an annual financial check-in, we also do regular like career check-ins and make sure, even now, both of us have retirement careers, but even now we do the same thing to make sure what we're doing individually is complementing the family as a whole.
Oh, that's great advice.
But it's not easy.
No, it's not.
None of it's easy, but it's well worth it. So, yeah. All right, my turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to relook at what I was going to ask you. Forgive me while I phone timed out here. Isn't that always fun? Okay, any early or any failures? Any failures you're willing to share with us, Joe, that really shaped you as you went through your career?
Yeah, so again, when I was younger, I wanted to appear like I had all the answers, that I knew what I was doing, that I was really competent. And when you do that, you're taking space from that side of you, going back to the questions again, curiosity and asking questions. And so there was a lot of things as a junior officer I did not ask questions about at all. And I just tried to like fake the funk like I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I'll give you one example. So property accountability, which is really important for those of you that are entering your Army careers. Make sure you know where all your stuff is at. I took that for granted. I would just give like thumbs up. I wouldn't actually count the things. I would just give a thumbs up. And so we were training. I was in a striker unit as a lieutenant, actually the same striker unit I commanded as a battalion commander. But at the time, they were stationed at Fort Lewis. It was 2nd Cavalry Regiment. I was at a training exercise for a couple weeks, and the way we did property accountability was a thumbs up. Again, don't do that at all. And so I was like, hey, everybody got everything? Thumbs up. It's the day before Thanksgiving, and what I found is if you lose a sensitive item, you find out about it the day before a major holiday. So it's noon Thanksgiving, my NCOs call me, and they're like, sir, we're missing a radio. Well, when was the last time we had this radio? A month ago at this training exercise. The one where you guys gave the thumbs up? Yes. And so all of a sudden, the entire squadron gets shut down, locked down, nobody's going anywhere. So I was really popular that afternoon when people are trying to catch flights back home and all sorts of stuff. And so we went up until like 9, 10 o'clock the day before Thanksgiving, trying to find this radio. Never found it. And we ended up finding it like a year later. It had fallen back behind something in a striker. And a guy that wasn't even in a platoon back then found it during a deployment. So we ended up finding it. But in that, those were like those times in my professional career where I touched the stove and got burnt really bad. Yeah. And so I think when those things happen, you can become the asshole and treat everybody poorly and just get in everybody's business and not trust other people. Or you can learn from that and use it as a teaching point. And so that became one of the main teaching points, getting down with lieutenants, getting down with captains and teaching them hands-on about property accountability. And so I think every great lesson I taught as a commander was usually something that I learned the hard way. And so I think sometimes in our careers, when we misstep, something bad happens. You have a couple of choices. You can let it defeat you. You can let it define you as you're the person who's always losing things, and that becomes part of your identity. Or the third choice is you let it develop you, and in turn develop other people. So I would say that like I learned that failure sometimes is the best teacher, which I think that's like a pretty big quote. But the important thing I learned there too was that my leadership, my company commander, the battalion commander, even the brigade commander, because everybody knew about this, knew that it was a learning point. They let that be a lesson for me, and it wasn't a zero-sum game then. So I would just say that if you do something that you mess up, you fail at something, let it develop you and develop others with it. And then if the people under you make mistakes too, see if you can turn that into a developmental opportunity, a training opportunity, instead of letting it be the thing that completely ends their career. Now, I understand that there's some things morally, legally, and ethically that you can't do, but there's a lot of other things, a lot of mistakes people made, and we sometimes hold people to the fire so much so that they can't recover from it. So I'm pretty grateful that I was able to learn from that mistake, and then again, turn that into development. What about you?
I just love that. So defeat, define, or develop.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful. I'm very much, I study and work a lot in the space of resilience, and there's a quote by the late Dr. Chris Peterson out of University of Michigan, and he was one of the founding fathers of this field of positive psychology, this idea of living your best, being your best, getting above the baseline. And when he talked about resilience at one point in an article many years ago, he described it as the ability to struggle well. And that idea of struggle is so powerful. So you're talking about like, let it not defeat you, let it not define you, but let it develop you. And it started as I was learning about resilience, I started to really reframe my struggles, my defeats. I had a lot of defeats, certainly. I felt a lot of defeats, and I wore those labels, and I let them define me, to continue with your 3 Ds. But once I started to reframe it a little bit as development, it changed me considerably. So
do you have a story you'll share?
Oh yeah, sure. I will share a story, I think, about leadership, what I've learned about leadership along the way. So going back, my early Army years, now again, I started at West Point in 91. So most of my Army time was in the 90s and then early 2000s. At the time, and this, my point with what I'm going to share isn't that, the point is that there are a lot of great ways to lead and not be stuck with one certain way. I learned a way to lead, and that was the predominant way that was displayed around me. It was very effective. The idea is of servant leadership, which is, I still believe deeply. And so to me, when I was a junior leader, platoon leader, company commander, that I was getting out there, helping out, pitching in, doing things, always being available, and for my soldiers. And I saw it helped me be seen as a team player. And I think it helped with my leadership at that stage where I was and where they were at that time. Fast forward a bunch of years, once I was in the FBI and I rejoined into leadership, I had not expanded my repertoire at all. And so I just continued where I'd left off. I kept leading as I'd led many years earlier in a different situation with different people and different mission set. And it didn't work. Like doing what I was doing, I think my more junior folks, they appreciated it because I was, kind of there with them. I think my peers tolerated it a little bit, but I had people I was leading who were much senior to me, way more experienced, and it wasn't working. And it wasn't, and I was scratching my head because I'm like, this had been so effective for me in the Army. And I was studying leadership at the time in grad school. And in doing so, I started to look into, research a little bit more about servant leadership. And I learned, again, this is not that there's anything wrong with that particularly, but I learned there's a dirty underbelly of everything. And I finally discovered that, different people need to be led in different ways in different circumstances. So I had to expand my leadership skill set. I had to expand my approaches to people. I had to be what people needed, and different people need different things in different circumstances. So that, again, that was a failure, but it led to me growing. It led to me,
I will share one more failure.
Yeah.
So same way, like I came up the same way. I thought like as a leader, like I have to be there with my people 24/7, doing exactly what they're doing. And when I was an executive officer for a squadron, we were at the National Training Center. It's 115 degrees, it's July, and it was very hot. And we were jumping the command post every single day. And this was like, we had huge tents. It was ridiculous. That was not made to be put up, taken down multiple times. And it's hot, we're in all of our kit. And I wanted to be there with all my people, like taking the tent poles down, pulling the wires down, collapsing the antennas, because I wanted to show them that I could do what they were doing. But a lot of those soldiers, when that was over with, would go back to sleep on their shift. But I was the executive officer, and as you know, during your field grade years, as a major, majors don't sleep a lot. They're always working. And I was tearing myself down to the point, it was like 14 days exercise, that by day 10, I was completely ineffective. And a general officer pulled me to the side afterwards, and he was like, hey, in each job in the Army, there's certain things that only you can do. Nobody else can do those. And you got to start with that first. And then everything else is like sprinkles on a cupcake. And so I took that with me forward, and I took that to heart when I was a battalion commander of I can only do certain things, the battalion commander, that nobody else can do. And I need to make sure that I'm doing those to the best of my ability. I need to make sure that I'm sleeping enough every night, because people are going to be relying on me to make sound decisions and not decisions where I'm completely tired and just doing crazy stuff. I need to be able to close the door and think for a bit before making a very important call on a UCMJ violation. So, as you go up to what Sarah was saying, you're going to have to modify what you do, and the things that you do as a junior person in whatever field you're in may not necessarily be the things that you can do as a senior person. So I think for me, that failure taught me to learn my job inside out. And I think maybe there's a little bit of fear there of me doing the job that I was supposed to be doing. So I just fell back to what was comfortable. Right. And it was very easy to take a tent pole down. It wasn't easy to make a call at 2 a.m. and move a bunch of logistics around. So that was another failure that I learned from.
I love that. It just came to mind. I had a battalion commander when I was a company commander once say, I think I probably know enough right now to be a pretty good squad leader. And I think there's that tendency, right? You want to do the job you're good at, but you're put into a new job to learn that job, to be good at that, to develop the people who are doing what you once did. And I think that's pretty, thanks for sharing that story.
No, thanks, for you too.
And I also appreciate real quick that you talked about sleep. I'm going to share a little bit about sleep when I talk with y'all in the workshop. But sleep, whatever you can do to take care of yourself, that's going to be some of the things we're talking about in the workshop. But I think sleep is one of those most critical things to do to take care of yourself. I was never very good at that. My husband was. And it was really interesting because he was in these tactical roles where you deploy anywhere within an hour type of thing. Here I would be I got to have my phone on at night, and all night long messages coming in. I got to always have my phone. I got to have it on my run. I got to have it on my bike ride, whatever. I always have my phone. Always be available. Always be connected. And just drains me as well as the phone, but drain. Whereas he would be hey, I'm going to be sleeping, so my folks know to call me. I put my phone on do not disturb phone calls only. They know to call me. I'm not going to be listening for text messages or emails at night like I was. And and I watched he made such sound decisions, communications, emotional intelligence, all those great leadership things beyond just your physical performance really worked so much better for him during that era until I started to get a clue and learn a little about the importance of protecting my sleep and how critical that is. So.
Yeah, there's a great book. You're going to get a ton of book recommendations from me throughout the day. But there's a great book called Why We Sleep. And I didn't read it till I went to battalion command, but it covers the science of sleep, the effects of not sleeping. And as soon as I read it, I have prioritized sleep ever since then.
Yep, Matt Walker.
Yes.
Love it. Yes, you'll see one of his quotes soon.
Oh, perfect.
It is great. Okay, and we're talking about, I guess, the next question. Are we on? Yeah, we're already on our last question. Joe, would you share, please, something that you've learned to do or something that you do that's really most impactful for your leadership?
Yeah, so I will share where this started, when this started. It's journaling. And for me, I'd come back from a deployment in 2020. It was during COVID. You heard Sarah talk about the conversations she was having with her husband all throughout. I did not have those conversations with my wife. And over time, we both drifted apart. So I came back from this deployment. I'm questioning, do I want to stay married anymore? I'm questioning, I was working for the commander of Resolute Support. So I'm working for a 4-star general over there. I'm helping write speeches for NATO. I'm helping the Secretary of Defense's team prepare him. I'm doing all these big level things, and all of a sudden I come back. I'm questioning my marriage. I'm questioning what I'm going to do now, and it's COVID. So the entire world hit the pause button on me, and I was kind of lost for a little bit. And so I started the practice of journaling, is writing down what I did that day and kind of what I was feeling. And that has changed my life. That was 2020, and I've journaled almost every single day since then. And I've kind of developed a format for it too. I'd like to share that. Yeah.
I would love you to, please.
So I start out with how much sleep I got the night before because of reading. I got to this after reading the Why We Sleep book. I was like, I need to track my sleep. So I would sleep, physical activity, what type of workout I did that day. I would write down kind of just a summary of the day, events I did. Another thing was decisions. I thought was really important too, to write those down. I read a business leadership book one time that the guy said, how do you know if you make good decisions if you never go back and review them? And so it was really interesting to write down a decision you made on that day and go back and look at it 6-7 months later to find out, was that a good decision or not? So it's decisions, something I'm struggling with that I'll write in there, something I learned that day, and a big one that game changer for me, and we were talking about this the other night, is something I'm grateful for. And what I found in journaling about something I'm grateful for is that no matter what, it forces me to look at things that I'm grateful for, to actually seek those out and pay attention to those. And so I started doing that over the course of 5 years. And what I've found is that I've been able to observe patterns of behavior that I wanted to work on, wanted to tweak and make better. I learned things about myself, asking, going back to questions again.
Right.
Like, why did this upset me so much? Like, why did I lose my cool over this one event? And really diving in and dissecting that. And then, it's really neat too, because I know all of us in here have had one of those days where you're just like, today just sucks. How am I going to make it to the other side of this? And it's really neat to go back when you have those days and look at them a year later, and you realize that wasn't that bad, or that actually turned out okay. And so I love going back and looking at what I was doing on this day, the previous year. And it's really, I think it's a great tool for resiliency too, because you're like, if I made it through that, and it's not a big deal now, then whatever I'm going through today
Exactly.
is not going to be a big deal 6 months. And then the other thing that's really cool, and you can take this with what you will, but sometimes, like, if you're in a relationship with somebody, like my spouse will say, this happened, and I'm like, no, it didn't. And then, or I'll say something happened, and she says, no, it didn't. Then I'll go grab my journal from that day in the middle of the argument to prove that I was right. That doesn't always go well. So I take that back. Don't go with that advice at all. But it's just really cool to have a record of your life that you can go back and kind of look at things. And then the last piece of it is like, I don't know about you in here. I imagine you are because you're in this forum. But I spent my entire career being very achievement oriented. It was never enough. I always had to keep accomplishing more. And it's really neat. At the end of every year, I go back and I review, and then I write down just a list of everything I accomplished that year. And I spend just a little bit of time just appreciating that. And if you are achievement oriented, I guarantee you that you won't do that. If you'll probably do what I did and just be like, man, I just got to keep grinding, got to keep working. And so that's a really good practice to do, is just to appreciate the work you've done and the progress you've made. If you're somebody that keeps beating yourself up, that you got to keep accomplishing more. So journaling, game changer. A lot of people think it takes a lot of time. 10, 15 minutes a day.
When do you do it?
I try to do it in the morning, and then sometimes like right before bed, just depending on what the schedule is. And I also, with that, like people are like, well, I don't have a lot of time. I'm very busy. Whether it's reading, writing, or reflecting, any of those things, you have to make time. And so I started getting up super early in the morning and finding that time before going into very demanding jobs. And that became the one practice that just centered me for the day. And so if I wake up in the morning, I journal, I read a little bit, maybe write a little bit, I'm good for the rest of the day.
There's so many great things in that. Thank you for sharing all that with us.
What about you?
Yeah, can I just pull a couple of things real quick?
Sure.
Just to, probably different things resonated with different of us, but you pointed out the importance of that reflection for resilience. Like, you are, again, the main character in your story, and you are, like we each are. And so the more you do that when something's going on, and then after that thing has happened, when you can look back and be very vivid with writing about what you learned, what changed, almost in the sense of a silver lining, that is so powerful when you're faced with challenges again. Because if you make it vivid for you now and you really reflect on that, you're gonna have that, you're gonna be able to drop back in on this moment and remind yourself. And you're not even, you might not even have to force it. Your brain's just gonna recognize, I can face what I'm faced with now because I've done these other things and I've done those things. So,
Can I share one more?
I love it. Please.
Okay. So how many of you, this is your first time living in Europe or living in Germany? Okay. Yes. So my first time living in Germany, like moving here, was summer of 22. All right. And I don't know if you all had this experience, but I'm a grown man and I'm struggling to figure out how to do something basic like go to the grocery store. Do y'all And so we were here for 2 weeks, or we were only here a week, and I got like super aggressive. I'm like, I'm gonna take my kids to a swim bad, a water park. It'll be fun. I was so confused. One, like,
why don't people have clothes on?
Yeah, like, why don't people have clothes? Why is this just like a massive, like, where's the women's versus the men's, like, changing rooms? Oh, it's a giant one. Like, I can't read the sign. Like, I don't have good service right now, so Google Translate's not working. And it was supposed to be a really fun family outing. My wife and I are fighting. I'm yelling at the kids because I can't do grown human beings stuff because I was trying to get used to this thing. So I journaled about that entire day. And a year later, we went to the same swim bad, had so much fun, completely different experience.
I love it. That's great.
And I loved going back and looking at, like, when you compare those two journal entries, It's like totally different. So it's going to get better. If you've just been here for a little bit, it'll get better over time.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done now.
No, I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh, so much good. Okay, but for time, my practice is meditation. I'm going to introduce that to y'all a little bit later today as well. I started meditating probably 7 or 8 years ago, and it has helped me in pretty much every aspect of my life. From the leadership side, it's just given me more presence and engagement. I was always very distracted. I was always like I just share that example of like not needing to be available all the time, the phone in the middle of the night, all those different things. I was always scanning my environment subconsciously for anything that was going on, which is great, which is wonderful. It's an awesome survival mechanism, but I was never really present. And meditation brought me that. It's brought me focus. I use it in very intentional ways now. When I need to get into a certain state, I have my own things, and I'll kind of go through some of that framework later. But meditation is probably my biggest game changer that I've had. Yeah.
How did you learn that?
How did I learn it? I begrudgingly kicking and screaming.
Okay.
Yes, I hated it at first. Has anyone tried to meditate? Does anyone do it? Fantastic. I love to see that some of y'all do it. Has anyone tried it and you tried it once? Yeah. And is anyone a snowboarder? Anyone tried snowboarding once? I often say like it's like snowboarding, especially as a skier, like you try snowboarding once and you don't try it again. That's how I felt about meditation the first go I had. I was in grad school and it was a requirement. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. I am not doing this. Can't I do this while I'm running or walking or biking? Or I would just argue with my professors about it. I'm too busy for this kind of thing. And we had to practice it. I hated it. Started keeping a journal because that was a requirement. And as soon as that assignment was done, I'm like, I'm never doing that again. And it was probably a good year later that I was at a point where I needed something, I needed anything. Just career-wise, all these pressures and stresses, and just I wasn't performing my best in any area of my life. And like, I'm gonna try that thing again. So I just kept with it. This time I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. I just kept with it, and I kept with it, and I started to feel a little better, so I kept with it. And then it changed me so much that over time I had we had kind of a little crisis, a big crisis in our family, or could have been a big crisis in my family. My husband was shot on a SWAT operation, and his body armor saved his life. And my non-reaction to that, so really my response to that in the aftermath, other people started asking me about what I'd been doing. They're like, something's different about you, you've changed. And I'm like, oh. They're like, no, you've changed, like you're different. You didn't react like you would have before. And people had known me in all sorts of different stages and places in my life. And I'm like, well, I started this meditation thing. Like, I didn't even realize that was it. And when I looked back, that was what I'd been doing that had changed me so fundamentally. It made me more responsive versus reactive. It made me more thoughtful. It made me less worried. It brought so much to me. And to the point that others started asking me to help them on different things, which kind of made me go right. You know, I was going this way. It made me go right with my career choices, and now I do what I do now because of that and being able to help other people discover these things. But a lot of it, and we're going to go through that today with you, but a lot of it is just finding something that works for you and sticking with it.
So if somebody here is like, I want to try meditation, like I tried it and my brain's just like, I did like snowboarding. I did it a couple of times and I was like, I can't.
Right.
How long did it take you to finally?
So most people, I will say, when I was teaching at the FBI's National Academy, I had my students, so the National Academy is like a war college for law enforcement. Our senior partners from around the world come in for a 10-week residential program with us, and we teach graduate and undergraduate courses from University of Virginia for them. And so I got to design my own courses and create my courses, and I did essentially wellness for leaders. And in that, I had them kind of follow a journey of meditation. So I've probably taken 350 or so very high-level senior people through a journey. And so My experience is one. Each person's experience is unique, but I would say kind of as an aggregate, at about the 3-week mark, with about 10 minutes a day, people start noticing something. Not always, but around that seems to be the average. Many sooner, many a week, some longer, 4 weeks, but about 10 minutes a day. And I'll set you up with some kind of protocols to try today when we talk in a little bit. I'll give you kind of that framework I gave to them. And, but within about 3 weeks, people started to, many, maybe even most. Some it doesn't work for everyone. Nothing works for everyone, but some it does. Many it does.
That's great.
Yeah.
So now we're going to open up if you have questions for Sarah or I, and we'll kind of make this like a group chat.
I have a question about meditation.
Yeah.
When you meditate, when I picture meditation in your dark room, sitting, quiet,
Yeah.
can you do it while running or walking without headphones in and stuff like that?
You know, eventually you might be able to, and that was me exactly when I was first starting to learn it. I thought I should be able to do that. I think it's a practice. Once you learn it, you can add that in. I had one National Academy student in particular. He was a serious cyclist. And we had, I coached all my folks one-on-one about this over 4 weeks. And so he had he had the same thing. He wanted to do it while he was cycling. And so once he learned the process, once his brain learned the process after a few weeks, he tried to bring it into cycling, and maybe a little bit. It takes a little while. I encourage learning. It's a new skill, like anything else, like learning to play golf or shoot hoops or firearms or whatever. Once your brain learns the skill, you can start to bring in some variables. And there are times when I will kind of get into that state. It's a little different, though, than if I'm sitting quietly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks. Maybe for those who raise their hands who already meditate, do y'all have a different, everyone has their own experience. Anyone have a different experience, able to do it when you're active? Yeah, go right ahead.
I'm Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
So I don't do it often as much as some people, but something that helps me is that if you get like a random thought, start thinking of something else, like just acknowledge the thought and just let it pass through back to yourself. Because that's usually what I struggle with is you start thinking, oh, I need to do laundry.
Yeah.
I need to do this, I need to do that.
Right.
This is what work. So normally it's really hard to, get in the zone and just be present and I guess not think of anything. But that's not the point.
Right.
Your brain never actually turns off.
Right.
So the point is that in spite of everything, you come back to your breath and you come back to yourself. And that's also okay. So I think that's where it gets uncomfortable. It's like, oh, I think I should be thinking of anything. But no, it's actually not. It's also coming back to yourself.
It's perfect. Beautiful. Thank you. Great. Hi.
So I have 2 questions. Do you meditate every day, or do you actually take breaks from meditation?
Yeah, most days, generally. So if I go, I would say most days now, probably 5 days a week. If I go more than 3 days, it's hard for, it just takes me a little while longer to do it, but I probably 5 days a week. I don't do it super long. So yeah, most days.
Okay.
Except when I'm traveling and jet lagged and I'm afraid if I close my eyes, I will pass out. A nap is a good thing. That's not meditation though. So.
Good to know. That leads me to my next question. So with the person that cycles, weightlifting, is your intent for meditation to hyper-focus on certain things, or is it to turn the brain off, as if we do when we are in the gym?
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And it's kind of learning to be just present with your thoughts. And I'll show you soon. I'll show you the cycle. And when we get into it during the workshop, I have a graphic of the cycle. But it's like, I think of it almost like making a choice with where you're going to let your mind go. And this gentle redirection back to whatever your focus point is, whether it's a word, a sound, a breath, a candle flame. There's a lot of different things you can choose, but it's making a choice. And I think that is the piece that I've experienced and heard from others. It's not by no means the only, but I've experienced and heard from others is such a powerful carryover into life. because you begin to recognize, man, I can really only be doing one thing at a time. We want to act and talk like we can do multiple, but I really can only be putting my brain to one thing at a time. And so we begin to, that carryover into real life as we begin to recognize, I have a choice to make here. I'm having, we're talking, but then I got, this thing comes up, like, how am I gonna, like, I'm not doing either well anymore. I have a choice to make back in. And so we start to recognize these choices. I've heard parents with young kids, some of their experiences have been less reactive to the things kids do, or different situations like that. We just, and sometimes it's not even really intentional. We just begin to kind of do these things in the background, making that choice. But also, I think both of you gentlemen, what you're talking about is this bigger concept of mindfulness, like being present, being engaged, being whatever you're doing. That is can be part of the meditation process. Again, we'll talk about that. But that's really that, like, being present. So being mindful while you're writing, being mindful while you're lifting, is just really keeping your mind where your actions are. And that's, I think, like, if your mind and actions are together, that is the essence of mindfulness. That's the essence of presence. And meditation can help us learn, our brains learn that skill. Does that help?
It does.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
So I have two questions, both tailored towards something that you yourself have said again. First question is, you said that you learn from your mistakes. You define and develop you, right? Something that I try to establish within my formation is I try to allow supporting development by allowing calculated risks, right? How do you choose what risks that you allow your subordinates to take in order to develop?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think, and maybe this is where, like, experience comes into, like, after a while you've seen so much, like, you're able to articulate that up front. And so I did my best to articulate up front before it was a training exercise, a deployment, or like when I was taking over a position, kind of giving them the broad parameters for that. And then there were times where, like, I wanted to turn the dial down on pressure that they were putting on themselves, because I wanted them to, like, push the bounds of something. So an example, we went to Hohenfels for a training rotation, and I told everybody, like, hey, like, we're going in the woods to play pretend for, like, 40 days. Like, I need all of you to, like, experiment. Like, nobody is shooting at you. You're not, like, this isn't a life or death thing. And so I want you to push the bounds of I want you to take calculated risk. I want you to try new things. And if you fail, and we're acting legally, morally, and ethically, and I think, like, those are the big parameters, then, like, I'm not going to judge you for it. And I had to keep saying it over and over again, because I think we are conditioned to not make mistakes, and we don't want to take risks sometimes, because if we stick our heads up and it gets chopped down, then like that, like it hurts. And so I think a lot of it was just those upfront conversations, and then continually reminding people that I wanted them to take calculated risk.
Thank you. The next one is, you found out later on in your career, you cannot always be in front of your formation, always, tackling those objectives and being that present leader, right? Always trying to be there with your subordinates. Until that general officer had told you need to take a step back and focus on the things that you need to do because no one else can do. So how did you develop that in your subordinates as far as, now they need to take you in that presence? How do you develop that value in them if you're not yourself there?
So there's a couple of things, like, that with that. So I found out that, like, as a commander, that I had to, like, prioritize when I engage with folks. What's the 1 hour a day that people are at work no matter what, doing the same exact thing? No, before that. It's 5 days a week, PT. And so the story I told earlier, the second lieutenant the CrossFit coach, she developed a physical fitness I basically turned a part of my squadron into a CrossFit box. And so a squad would come up every 5 days a week with me and my sergeant major. She would lead PT, we would all do it together, and then we would just have conversations about what was going on. And I found out that like sweating next to everybody for an hour a day, talking trash to people, like really like just giving it all I got for that 1 hour during PT next to people, like I found out stuff was happening in the formation. And so like I could find out things that were going on within different companies and then go talk to that company commander and be like, listen, like you're failing here because you're putting too much time, effort, and energy over here. And so like I was able to find out stuff in that 1 hour a day and then help develop the company commanders that way. But what I found was that like I focused my time there. It allowed me to get to know everybody and get to find out what was going on in the formation. And then that way, later in the day, like I could do the one-on-one counselings with my leaders. I could go to the meetings that only I could go to as the commander, or I could give training guidance, only the thing that I could do as a commander. So I started finding when was the most bang for my buck, where would my return on investment make the most, and it was that 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. And so that's what I ended up learning to do. And then the other piece of it is if there was a point of friction in the organization, that's where me or my sergeant major needed to be. And it didn't always have to be me. It could be him too. So I think again, that's like stuff that I learned. I wish I'd have learned a lot sooner in my career. Did I answer the question right? I don't know. I just started talking.
Okay, well, with that, we are finished with the fireside chat. So big round of applause, please.
You did good.
Thank you again for listening to another episode of From the Green Notebook podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please give us 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps us gain visibility and the opportunity to help more people on their leadership journey. Also, make sure you check out our website at www.fromthegreennotebook.com. There, you can listen to past episodes, read leadership articles written by military leaders from around the world. You can sign up for our monthly reading list email where you can learn about new books that are coming out, and our Sunday reflection email that comes out every Sunday morning. Is really short. It's a 2-minute read, but I guarantee you it's going to start your week off on the right foot. Finally, make sure you follow us on Twitter at FTGN Notebook, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook by searching for From the Green Notebook. Again, thank you so much for coming on this journey with us. I am humbled by the opportunity to learn these lessons alongside you. So please join us next week for another episode of From the Green Notebook, where we're going to help you lead with the best version of yourself.
I came from the mud.